Video 2, guys, I'm really sorry. Again, I filmed these things back to back and the sound just cut off. I filmed 3 back to back. The first one was okay and then the sound just stopped. So I am so sorry that the sound is going to be wonky on this one. Please stick with it. I know it's frustrating, but if you do, I'd be super grateful and super appreciative. I promise I will fix this in the next videos. I will have to do my tech digging, have my guy do my tech digging, and we will figure out what's going on. So thank you for the love and compassion, and my apologies. Yay tech. Okay, here we go. Hi guys, it's Joy, and if you saw my earlier videos, I have one more. I've seen people losing it over Ryland's podcast over the last week or so. If you remember last week, he put up a podcast where he was doing it with his friend Lizzie, and they sat at the podcast and they talked about what is going on with Trisha Paytas. It was very polite, very respectful, very professional in my opinion, very healthy. And they touched on it, they wished her well, you know, he was very, very gracious. But of course, that wasn't enough. Everybody had to nitpick it apart and tear it down. At this point, Shane and Ryland cannot do anything right. If they don't say anything, they're cowards, they're horrible. If they do say something, it'll just be picked apart because people want to put bullseyes on people. At least, that's my perspective of how this looks. So, Ryland and Lizzie came back, and you know what? It's a little bit saucier. And I gotta tell you, I enjoy it. If you haven't seen my other videos on this, go check these out. But I've seen a lot of criticism from these two, from people who are just, they're gonna be mad and pick apart anything Ryland says. This one, I think, kind of takes the cake, because not only have they talked about the fact that they've turned off their comments and likes, which people are furious about, which why? If you're gonna bully somebody like that, yeah, turn off the comments and likes. Set your boundaries. Shane and Ryland get to be people that set boundaries too. And I feel a lot of this is just bullying because we have no evidence. It's the gossip of gossip. That's the evidence. That is not evidence. I don't care what people say. That will never be evidence. That will never be factual. And that's what I like to go by. If not, I like to give people the benefit of the doubt because I think that's how you be a respectful, kind human being. You know, that thing that's lost when it comes to the social media game. Everybody's cutthroat and gross. Not everybody, but most people. And I don't like it. Even the viewers can be that way. And I don't understand it. But what I want to go into is a lot of people, again, are really upset at Ryland because they think he's being passive aggressive and he's throwing shade at the internet. He's trying to shame all of us because apparently everybody just sees how secretly awful he is. So I want to take a look at these clips and then I have everything I'm going to break down and we'll see what's going on. Let's take a look.
In other news, the Dolan twins announced that they're retiring or resigning from their YouTube channel, their main channel. Their podcast is going to continue, but they've decided that with their main channel, it just felt like stagnant to them. They're like creatively not stimulated anymore. Mm-hmm. And I feel like this is just something we've seen a lot over the past year. Like it feels like YouTube is a party that is over and everyone's like slowly leaving. Like the party it's no longer happening. Yeah. It feels like to me. Like I feel like most people are on TikTok, their attention spans are a lot shorter. They're not really wanting to watch somebody's 20 to 30 minute long video. And I personally kind of feel the same with my main channel. It's like after having made 3 years of videos, it's like to me, what sort of scenario have people not seen me in? Like they've seen me react to all sorts of things. So it does get harder to come up with a concept that lights a fire under your ass. And you really only want to create if you're passionate about it. And then just the times are, I mean, it's exhausting. Everyone's criticizing everyone for everything. And I understand a lot of it's valid and like, it's just it's a weird, crazy time right now.
Yeah. I mean, I never consumed a lot of the Dolan twins stuff anyways. So shit. I didn't mean that in like a shady way.
Right. But you were just not their core audience.
I did think it was ironic that they were announcing that they're done with YouTube on YouTube and that they're not actually exiting YouTube because their podcast lives on YouTube. So it's not like you're retiring from YouTube.
It's the end of an era for them.
Right.
But you know what?
Didn't they do this last year?
If they were going to capitalize, they would have said like, we're leaving YouTube on their main channel where they could have cashed like I'm sure a lot of people would have watched like, we're leaving this channel forever. Like people would have been like, oh, they did. They watched their podcast. A lot of people watched their podcast announcing it. But I do think they're young. I think they're only 21 years old.
No.
And it's like to make that evolved of a decision just being like, this isn't healthy for me is great. Breaking the internet this week was queen of all queens, Jojo Siwa. She came out. I am so ecstatic. I did have chills when I saw it because what a huge, scary, monumental step in her own life.
Right.
She is 17 years old, has had an audience for as long as I've been on the internet, as long as I can remember. And she just boldly and confidently expressed who she was authentically. And I had a hard time doing that at 21.
Yeah.
And that's only because, like, the people in my life, I didn't want this complex to be like, oh, maybe they thought I was lying to them when really I was just coming to terms with myself. But she has a whole audience of people.
Yeah.
And that's like a scary thing to do when you know it's going to like be in all the headlines and the top of trending. And I'm just like over the moon for her.
I mean, yeah, we know she's feeling great. She's feeling good because she told us those things. Like, I'm not trying to put words or feelings into her, but I do love the way that she did it. It was like of her own joy to share this information, like of her own release, her own joy. And I really like that. I like that she's sharing a happy moment with people instead of doing some forced thing that was like not genuine or real. But I think what I love about JoJo is she's always mad genuine, and she's like, that's really who she is. I saw her driving her Tesla one time when I was working as an office PA, and I was just like, JoJo! I'm constantly like the 30-year-old in the room like, you guys see that new JoJo video? And everyone's like, who the fuck is JoJo? And I'm like, who the fuck are you? Like, where have you been if you don't know who Jojo Siwa is?
Yeah, well, you said your male roommate was the one that broke the news to you.
Well, no, I had already known because I saw the TikTok. Like, I sent you the TikTok.
And she just like eased on into this, like a subtle TikTok. The next day, a nice little photo where it said like my best, what did the photo say?
Her cousin got her a t-shirt that says best gay cousin. And then she went on Instagram Live and then she posted that on her feed.
Which inspired me. Like the first half is her kind of not addressing things, like just being elated for herself, which is great. And you can tell it's pure joy, which is the best part.
Yeah.
And then the second half of the video is honestly like a motivational speech about like being true to yourself. I was like, girl, I needed to hear this right now.
I'm feeling chills.
I was like, you're 17 years old and you're making me reevaluate my life and where I'm standing and how I walk about the world.
I used to listen to Dream on my way to work. Like, I swear to God. And one time I had to pick up someone else to drive them to set, and I was like, you should listen to this. It really hits.
The music video is also iconic. Like,
oh my God,
her dancing
everything.
is like, she is a through and through entertainer. I wish her so much joy and well. Are you crying, Brigitte? She's over there with the tissue, like dabbing. When Brigitte Scream texted me about this too. That's what I love. The world just feels overjoyed for her.
Yeah, well, James was like just sitting on the couch. He's like, good for her, man. She must be feeling so
roommate,
good right now. My roommate, sorry.
It's okay.
Not to be confused with my fiance. We're still together. I'm not passive aggressively calling him my roommate now. I live with two men. Just shut it down before the rumor starts going around town.
Well, there's no comments. They can't do that right now.
Oh my God.
They can, but however, I did want to say, if you do want to comment, we do have Instagram for our show at the SIP official. And I think that will be our comment section for now. If somebody really wants to seek us out and do negativity, spread negativity there, I guess more power to them. But I think that's where we'll be interacting for the time being while the comments on this YouTube channel are off.
Okay, I'm gonna dive into this a little more into this one. So they were talking about the Dolan twins say they're leaving because they feel stagnant and creatively they are not stimulated anymore. And it says and then Ryland was saying this is something we see with a lot of creators. He says it's like YouTube is a party that's over and the party is no longer happening and everybody is slowly leaving. I would agree and I would disagree. I can see what he's saying. In fact, like with platforms like TikTok really taking off, with Instagram trying to push, not Instagram, it's is it Instagram? What's that one that's really trying to push people to make videos? It used to be really popular. Remember, it was like send messages and they get deleted. Whatever that was, sound off in the comments. Like they're trying to push people. So I do see what he's saying there. And yeah, a lot of people are leaving YouTube. I still think it's a platform that's very lucrative and does very well, obviously, but it is going to be interesting to see what other social media platforms spring up and what does well. Could you imagine 4 years ago being like TikTok, just talking about it randomly in conversation without sounding like you're referring to toddlers? By the way, I'm not even talking about the people. I'm talking about just the fact that you just run, like we say TikTok. Like, it's just weird to me. So he says people are on TikTok and the attention spans are shorter. They don't want to watch a 20 to 30 minute video. And you know what? Like, I can agree with him in some ways, but in other ways, because I think that's why Vine was so popular. I think Vine going down was so sad because look at what TikTok has done. And I think TikTok picked up where Vine left off. Vine had so much potential. So it's really sad to see that kind of go by the wayside. And I think there's a market for both, because a lot of people, they want that short hit of dopamine from a small video that's fun, but then there are a lot of people who like to get to know their creators, right? Because for a lot of people, it's like sitting and hanging out and chilling with a friend. A lot of people enjoy, like my watch time is super high. A lot of people just like sitting and hanging out with me, which I am so grateful for. I want to have more YouTube buddies, so I love it. I'm happy to have you guys if you want to be here and hang out. And he says, he understands and he kind of feels the same way about his channel. He's like, well, after 3 years on my channel, he's like, people have seen me react to so many things. What scenarios do I have to react with? He was like, they've seen me do everything. It's harder and harder to come up with a concept that really makes me feel passionate. He's like, you want to create when you're passionate, it's exhausting because, and he's talking about the platform because everybody's criticizing everything. He's like, I get a lot of things are valid, but it's a weird time right now. He is not wrong. This platform can be very toxic with I'm kind of wondering how long a lot of these gossip channels end up lasting, the drama channels, especially the really mean ones, because this is a platform where everybody is trying to tear everybody else down for attention. It's gross. I don't like it. I do my best not to participate in those behaviors. I'll call things out when I feel to, when I see them, or if I feel like something's super unsafe, or I feel like somebody's being really mean and bullying. But you know, people will just tear, like they're tearing Ryland down, and for what? For what? I've heard the worst things, like, oh, he's bougie. Oh, he spends a lot of Shane's money, has expensive taste. Okay, let's entertain that that's the case. So what? Who cares? Even if that's true, who cares? Why does that freaking matter? Oh, he's not talented. He's riding off Shane's coattails. I'm sorry. You know what? Shane he is somebody who can gift people their own platform. That's a blessing. Just because Ryland may have had a blessing with Shane coming into his life didn't mean Ryland was a creator in his own right. He was his own person before Shane. I think that's just disgusting how people want to tear Ryland down. And I think a lot of it is jealousy. It's jealousy because, you know what? I bet if Ryland worked hard enough, he would have achieved everything he wanted on his own at the level that he's at now. So what if he had a come up? Doesn't mean he's a horrible person. Like that bothers me. So, okay. He says, and he talks about the criticism. It's toxic. And he says, and then Lizzie says it's ironic they are announcing they're leaving YouTube on YouTube, but their podcast is still on YouTube. They're not leaving that. So it doesn't really make it retiring. And he says, well, if they were going to capitalize, they would do it on their main channel. He's like, I do think they are young, and to make that evolved decision isn't, he's like, that's not, that to say that this situation is not healthy for them is great. I think that's actually very telling. I think that's very telling of the fact that he and Shane have probably had a lot of talks about, let's be done with YouTube. It's too toxic over here. And I bet Shane is, if I were to speculate, this is all speculation, I would bet Shane is having a real existential crisis and a real emotional mental dilemma in himself about what do I do and how do I move forward? And not just about, can I overcome the cancellation? If I were Shane, I'm just telling you how I would feel. And it's just my intuitive sense. I could be wrong. He's probably questioning even just YouTube, the platform in itself. Maybe the platform is just too toxic for me to even want to step back on. I don't blame him. I hope he does. I hope he comes back. I hope he gets to a place where he says, screw all of this and just does what he wants to do. But at the end of the day, that's his decision. That is his decision to make, and nobody can tell him what he should or shouldn't do. He knows what's healthy for him, and he'll go through that process as he needs to. Same with Ryland, except Ryland is still, courageously putting himself out there, which more power to him. So he says, and then they talk about Jojo Siwa coming out, which I loved this story because guys, like 10 years ago, Jojo Siwa coming out would have been a much bigger deal. It would have been criticized. People would have been a lot meaner. And I love this simply because I think it's a full circle moment. I think Shane was such a big voice in his coming out with the LGBT at that time when it was going through a transformation. He was one of the biggest creators kind of putting that out there. I think he's done a lot of good for the LGBT community that he doesn't get credit for. So I kind of like this. And so they're talking about Jojo Siwa came out. He said he had chills when he saw it. What a huge, scary, monumental step in her own life. She's 17, has had an audience for as long as Ryland has been on the internet, and she boldly and confidently expressed who she was authentically. And he's like, and I had a hard time with that at 21. And that's because I thought the people in my life didn't want, he's like, I didn't want the people in my life to have this complex, like, oh, I don't want them thinking that I'm lying or something. He's like, when I was coming to terms with it. But she has a whole audience, and she knows if she says something, it's going to be trending and top of the headlines. So he was saying he's really proud of her. I'm proud of the fact that I feel like my generation has been a really big part and a huge voice in allowing LGBT voices to be heard and to be normalized. I love this because it just makes me think back to, what was it, 25 years ago when, you know, Ellen, her show was canceled because she came out. First woman to do it, you know, which was monumental, canceled because of it. So when I talk about the 90s and the 2000s being a very different time, this is not a joke. It was a very different time. It was a very toxic time. So he says, so he talks about Jojo Siwa, and he says, we know she's doing great and she's feeling good. I do love the way she did this. That she shares this from her own joy, and she's just excited to share this information. Her own release and joy. He says, I like that she's sharing a happy moment with people instead of doing something like some forced thing that wasn't genuine or real. I love Jojo. She's always been really genuine and kind, and that's who she is. And then Lizzie had talked about her driving one time, and she fangirled and got excited. And then here's another shade. Here it comes. Ooh, shame on you, Ryland. So then Ryland was like, oh, well, to Lizzie, your roommate broke this to me. And then she said Jojo did a TikTok and then about the situation, and there was a photo, said my best gay cousin, and that kind of really inspired Ryland. And then she did a motivational speech about being true to who you are, and Ryland says she makes Ryland reevaluate his life. They wish her so much joy and so well, and the world feels overjoyed for her, and he loves that. I think all of us love that, just how much we've evolved over the last few decades with this sort of thing. And then he says, James, her roommate, was happy for him. She reiterates her fiance and her are still together and she lives with them both. Oh, she was talking about this. She was like, oh, James is happy. Oh, my roommate, not my fiance. We all live together. And she's like, and then she talks about, we're going to shut it down before the rumors go around town. And then he reminds her that everyone in the comments, he's like, well, the comments are off. And if you want to seek out and spread comment negativity, go to our Instagram page. What a fun little burn. People are mad about this, like, oh, how dare you? Oh, you turn it up. You don't want to hear what we have to say because you don't want to grow as a person. He doesn't have to listen to negative gossip, especially if it's not true, because there's no evidence for everything that's coming out. Trisha says she has evidence, and of course, we don't see any of it. Like, there's no evidence for any of this. And you know what? If Ryland and Shane, if they want to voice that they're a little bit frustrated with this situation, do it! You're telling me that Trisha gets to say horrible, terrible things and bully up one side and down another for rumors that we don't know if are true? And Shane and Ryland have to sit there like saints, be criticized if they sit there like saints, if they say anything or express any frustration about the bullying? They're horrible people? No. I don't even want to say I'm sorry, I don't buy it. There's no I'm sorry, I don't buy it. They're human beings. People are human beings, should be respected as human beings, and I'm always going to stand by that. And that's that. And that's how I feel. Okay guys, if you like the video, please give a big thumbs up, like the video, subscribe to notifications if you're new, you like my content, sound off in the comments, tell me what you think, is there something I'm missing? I'm open, let me know, and please share this content with people you know. And guys, I want to apologize about the sound again. I am just finding out at the very end of these videos my sound was not working, so the sound of these videos is going to be horrible. Please stick with me, I will make sure and get this fixed for the next one, so my absolute apologies. Okay guys, take care, lots of love, lots of blessings to the next video. I'm giving you guys lots of hugs, lots of kisses. I will see you soon. I'm so grateful for every single one of you, and that's it. Okay, take care. Bye guys.